Let's go. Hey guys, and welcome to the Women Going Big podcast. It's Krista, your host for today, and I am thrilled to have Jocelyn on the show today. She was like one of the very first applicants that I had to the second season of the Women Going Big podcast, and she's a breakup to wake up coach, and she helps people live in their most radiant light, leaping from limitation to liberation. And I think the biggest thing is that I was moved by her story, and I don't want to take anything away from that. So Jocelyn, I'm going to hand it back over to you to kind of tell our listeners a little bit more about your journey and kind of where you're at and what you're doing.
Yeah, Krista, thank you so much. Thank you, first of all, for having me. I know we talked about this before we went live, is we've tried a few times to schedule, and like life happens, right? We all have that happen, and we're all running in different directions. So I'm grateful to have the time right now. So yeah, my journey into coaching actually began with my own breakup. My marriage ended in 2017, and at the end of that year, and we filed at the end of that year, and I remember in that moment, we had just moved from Pennsylvania to Colorado months earlier. I had walked away from a very prolific career. We had owned a family-owned business and was also doing very well, yet I was absolutely bereft within inside of me. I had nothing.
Yeah.
You know, I could tell you that, like, you know, I looked at my world and I said, I'm just so miserable, but why? Yeah. Right? Because everything on the outside looked amazing, right?
Yeah.
I had a marriage, I had a healthy son, vibrant career, we had a really good business. We were in this brand new place, and we moved here with this excitement of the next step of life. Yeah. And it was anything but. And so when my marriage ended, like, two of my biggest labels were gone. I was no longer away. And I hadn't been working for that big company anymore because I'd walked away from that to make this happen. It was like, I had defined myself by what I did because I didn't know who I was. And I found myself literally on the floor, not figuratively, literally sobbing on the floor and asking myself, now what?
Wow.
Now who am I? Because I don't know who I am, because I lost my spark. And I'm an Aries, I'm a fire sign.
Yeah. Wow.
That's important,
yeah.
right? So that's where my journey of self-discovery began. Worked with my first coach. I learned very quickly about all these stories I told myself because other people had told them to me, and I believed them to be my own. Like, I'm not worthy of receiving love, and I'm not enough.
Yeah.
Right? And learning all of the origins of that, why I told myself that for so long, and breaking up with those stories, because that's what they were. They were stories, they weren't true.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things I worked on was my own vulnerability and deciding where I was okay with me, not worrying about the judgment of others. And that was something that was, as much as we worked on it with my coach, I really started to play with that very heavily. This is before I knew about Brene Brown's, most widely known YouTube TEDx video, or TED Talk. I've since watched it several times. My vulnerability dive was me sharing very publicly on Facebook what was going on in my world, like of me crying, of having great days, having horrible days, but all of it. I didn't hold back.
Yeah.
Because I held back for so long. I've been a voyeur in life for so long, and I was like not doing that anymore. And what happened was people started reaching out to me and sending their friends to me and saying, whatever you're doing is working, and I think you can help my friend.
Wow.
And it took me a year to figure that out, but I was like, maybe there's more here.
Yeah.
Maybe my greatest struggle is my greatest gift. And I also developed a podcast in that time frame, and talking about with other coaches about what they do, why they do what they do. It's called Leap. And that's really where the journey began. And when I really began to understand that I could do something and other people could thrive because I had so many tools now, I was like, this is what it's at. And so there it's been. And so I do one-on-one coaching, and I'm about to launch my first group coaching program, which we'll talk about later. But it's really about getting to the root of who you are, dispelling those things that you were told, at 5 years old that you weren't good at math because you got the math problem wrong on the board. Maybe not 5 yet, but 6, 7, 8 years old, and somewhere someone told you you're not good at math, but you made that to be true because you got it wrong and everyone laughed at you.
Yeah.
And you held on to that into your 40s.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm like, I think you're speaking to me right now, because I was that kid. Actually, I still tell myself I'm bad at math, so that's a great example. And I want to jump in here because you said so many things in your intro just now that I'm like, yes, yes, yes.
Why not? Just when they have time, right?
Yeah. Go for it. So one of the things that I love, love, love talking about on this podcast is, and you said it really well, that moment where you were laying on the floor, or even before that, that moment where you were like, this is not what I want. This is no longer who I am, and this life is no longer serving me. I have goosebumps again, because I think that there are so many people, both men and women, that are living a life that's a shell. They're living a shell of a life, and there's nothing in it, and they don't know how to get out. So where I'm going with this is I would love for you to expand on first recognizing that, and that it's okay, and then what the first step is to get out of that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And you're saying that and I'm getting goosebumps. And I still do, this is my ongoing journey, by the way. This is not like a one and done.
I love it. Yeah.
Taking that first step, I want anyone who's taking that first step, first and foremost, pat yourself on the back. Give yourself credit and give yourself grace and forgiveness. None of us have the crystal ball. None of us have like this perfect life story, okay? It's BS.
Yeah.
It's BS. So give yourself credit for that. And you've chosen yourself. So that's number one. Number two, make a plan. And the plan is, if I'm going to make a decisive change about this aspect of my life, by the way, if it's one aspect, it actually controls, it leaks into all aspects. You're the same person in every piece of your life, as a parent, as an employee, as an employer, as a child, as a sibling. Mm-hmm. You're the same. You want to be that same person throughout. Mm-hmm. Identify what it is, the strongest thing that you want to change, number one. Number two, when you make that plan, find an accountability partner. That can be a friend. It can be probably not your child. You don't necessarily want to go to your child unless you have an adult child, but probably not your child. Find a professional. Find someone who's going to keep you accountable to your goals and your desires and your dreams. Recognize that you're going to fall to your knees again. You have to go through the darkness to find the light. It doesn't have to be awful. That's why you have an accountability partner. That's why you work with someone who is going to be there with you throughout this. Change can happen in an instant when you decide to make that change. Keeping that change, very different. Keeping that change takes practice and months. And we talk about habits. We have a lot of these books out about like 7 best habits, habitual behaviors. That is going to take part in this. What is your new day going to look like? Is it going to wake up in the morning and look at your phone? Or are you going to wake up in the morning and say out loud 3 things that you're grateful for? And how different that is. Little things. I know I just said a lot, but it's, deciding that you're going to make a change, find an accountability partner, start with a new habit. And that accountability partner is part of that process. That's where I say you start. Mm-hmm. And it goes from there. Yeah. And give yourself grace, and recognize you're going to make through on the other side when you commit to yourself.
I love that so much. And I think the biggest thing in there, because this is something, so I'm in I can't really say mid-20s anymore. I'm like that weird in between mid to late 20s. So there's a lot of people in my age group that like are going through this weird, it's not a midlife crisis, it's like a young midlife crisis.
They call it the quarter life crisis.
The quarter life crisis.
Yeah, I hit that at 25. I'm 43, but I hit it at 25. Yeah.
But it's just so, like, people think they've been, like you said, they've been told something all through growing up, all through high school, all through college. They've had this idea of what they should be, where they should be, what they should be doing. And now, like, we're on that cusp of being actual adults and not young adults anymore. and it's nothing like we were told, or it's nothing like we thought it would look like. And I think that we get so caught up in like outside looking in, like what people think we should be doing. And so that process that you just described of recognizing, having a plan, and then practicing is like, it's super powerful, not only, like you said, for people that are literally breaking up and starting over, but for people in any stage of life. And the fact that you're going to fall again. It's not a one-time fix all. And I think that's something that people get stuck on, and then they get discouraged. So what is something that you can kind of speak to or give advice on for somebody that maybe has gone through the process and then has fallen again, and they're feeling defeated and deflated?
Are we doing video and audio, by the way? I'm just curious.
Yeah, video and audio.
Okay, perfect. So I was like raising my hand. I'm like, oh, wait, I don't know if people are going to see this. No,
okay. I love it.
So I want to be honest with you, Krista, because you're asking a question that's right here, right present with me this past year. So I want to actually give you my real life example, because what's
I love it. Yes.
I went through this divorce, and I walked 3 months later, after working with my first coach, I could actually look at my former husband without malice. I could look at him with love. And I had a lot of anger and a lot of resentment, I will be very honest with you. And the transition there was because I shut everything else out, I cocooned, and chose to work on me. Yes, I put stuff on social media, but I didn't imbibe it. I just put it out there and like let it go. I changed my sleeping habits. I changed my eating habits. I stopped drinking. I started a nutritional cleanse. For me, I dedicated to me.
Yeah.
And I also made for mine was always sincere commitments around loving myself, because that's why I ended up in the situation I was in. I didn't love myself. I didn't even know that I didn't love myself. That was even scarier. Yeah. I chose to love myself, and I'm dedicated to that. I spent about a year dating a little bit, but barely. But I spent pretty much a year dedicating to me. Then I got into a relationship. And it was wonderful in the beginning, and I stayed loving, dedicated to me. Yeah. And my old patterns came back. And I stopped taking care of my connection first. In place of, oh, how can I start this person to love me again? To love and I didn't even see it. That's not true. I saw it, and I that's not true. I'm going to take that back. I heard my intuition telling me this. Yeah. I saw it, and I ignored it. That's the truth. So I fell to my knees again. However, I saw it and chose to ignore myself. That's the key. Don't do what I did. Well, that's not true. You all have your own journeys. Yeah. I fell again. But what I recognized is I have more work to do. And that's okay. Yeah. And that's okay. Did I die? No. Did my heart get broken? Yes. And am I proud of myself for being open and honest, opening myself back up, because I thought, I don't know if I ever want to do that again after my marriage failed. I thought my marriage failed, right? But it didn't fail. I failed me. Yeah. And I did it again. I stumbled again. Recognize that this is an ongoing journey. Yeah. And this person that came into my world taught me so many things, and I had a wonderful time with him until I didn't. And I just didn't say no. So I think to summarize that, one of the biggest things where I start with clients is defining your values. This is actually a perfect time to kind of weave that in. Values are your roadmap of how you make decisions about how you show up in your life and show up for you. So one of the exercises I do, if we can't define values for ourselves, some people probably know them and they probably live by them, but haven't taken the time to recognize them. So if you're having a hard time to recognize them, before you look inside, sometimes you have to look outside. So who are those top 5 people you admire most? People you know, people you don't know, people you just admire. Write down why you admire them. So one of them, mine is Jen Sincero. I adore her because she is, number one, she's badass. Number 2, she speaks her truth unapologetically. She stands in herself and is not concerned about what other people think. So that's what I write Jen, I write down all that stuff. And I write down the rest of my people and write down why. You're going to start to see a pattern emerge of words and phrases. Circle those. Those are your values. Second, once you write those down, you do what I call rank them. So you might have 10, but let's get the top 5.
Yeah.
What's the most important to least important? Then define them for you. Not what Webster's dictionary says, not what Oxford, because those are their definitions.
Yeah.
What does it mean to you? Now you've got a roadmap. How you decide when you say yes and when you say no. And it can be really simple. So like an example, a client of mine decided that she was not going to drink for the year because she just recognized that was not healthy for her. In a relationship, person invites her to go meet friends to go out for a drink. She wanted to spend time with this person because she enjoys this person. She doesn't want to drink. She went anyway. And I said, oh, so how'd that feel? Awful. I had a horrible time. Why? Because I didn't really want to be there. I wanted to spend time with this person, but not in that environment. Values. Little thing.
Yeah, and I think, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think this is really important to recognize because you're breaking this down, but at the end of the day, and the thing that keeps repeating in my head is that it's okay to say no. And this is something that I had to, I hope I didn't, that I had to teach myself, and I had to learn myself, is that like I was in a position where I'm a yes person. I say yes to everything, to help people, to do things for other people. That's just who I am. But I've struggled so much because then I get stressed and I get just like not good. I get sick and it's awful. Anyway, so this last year I started just learning how to say no. But the problem that I was feeling is that I felt like I was being selfish. And I'm going to let you do it because and I know that's one thing that people struggle with is that they don't want to say no and they don't want to stand up for themselves because they're worried they're being selfish.
Okay, so I'm curious, what is selfish? When you say that word, what does that mean for you?
So I think for me,
or how does that make you feel when you say that? That's actually more important. How does it make you feel?
Yeah, so it's going to be a super loaded question. So being selfish to me means doing, so right off the top of my head, it means doing things for me with me at the forefront. Like I'm doing something for myself and nobody else.
Okay.
But that at the end of the day, it's a loaded question because at the end of the day, I think we are the only ones that matter. Our decisions should be the only thing that matter. We should not care what it means to other people. Our decisions, I mean, unless it's like harm or, malicious or, anything like that. But if we are putting ourselves first, it shouldn't concern anybody else. So I want to go ahead, and I see it on your face. You're just itching to do it. Let loose.
It is, because I'm so glad that this is where we came to. Selfish. When you said it, by the way, I don't know if you noticed how when you said it, what you did, your body language actually answered the question. It was that's an ugly, dirty word.
Yeah.
And we're not supposed to be. First of all, I hate the word supposed to be. I'm not a big fan of that. Woulds and shoulds are out of my vocabulary, right? That's expectation of others upon you. Selfishness is actually an amazing thing. Because it's exactly what how you defined it. I am at the front. I make decisions that support me. That's actually amazing. We've taught ourselves that that's not okay.
Yeah.
And that's BS. So the group coaching thing, by the way, is called Break Through Your BS, and we're going to talk about that.
Oh, I love that.
So starting in October, and that's a piece of it, is breaking through that selfishness, that idea that selfishness is bad. First of all, there's no good bad. It's actually when you take care of yourself, when you decide to put yourself in the forefront of what serves you best, guess what happens? You fill your own cup. So again, you're making decisions based in the value system that you've created for yourself. It is being selfish. And when you are full, and when you are vibrating at the highest, most abundant person that you can be, you have more to give to others. When you decide to put everyone else first. Guilty, by the way.
Yeah.
Guilty party of this. When you do that, you pour from an empty cup. You are so depleted, you have nothing left. And this is how we've been taught to be in society for generations. So it's not a blame game. It's what we were taught by our parents. Our parents were taught by their parents about what they believed was the best.
Yeah.
We're all doing the best that we can. I'm also a mom, right? I'm a mom of a 6-year-old son. I am doing the best I can with what I have. I have more awareness, and I literally go out and reach out for new tools.
Yeah.
I know I'm messing them up. I know it.
Yeah.
I'm doing the best I can. I am making decisions that, again, here's the thing. I'm making decisions that are going to serve me. No is a complete sentence. I borrowed that from a friend. Aaron Bear, if you listen to this one, I borrowed it from you. No is a complete sentence. And it's empowering. Being selfish is the best thing that you can actually do. Not just for you, but for anyone and everyone you will ever connect with. Because when you do that, you show up as the best version of you. And when you get to show up as the best version of you, you have more to give, to impact the community, your friends, your family, the community you serve, the society you live in.
Yeah.
It is the best thing you can actually do.
I love that. And I think, I mean, you said is that not enough people do it because they don't think that it's the right thing to do. You know, they think that saying yes to everything and helping people to the point where there's nothing left of them is the thing to do, and it's really not. And that's something too that it's been quite a groundbreaking year for me. COVID hit me pretty hard, and that's when I really did some soul searching, and a lot of things changed, but good things. You know, I'm on the other end of this now, where I realize that, you know, I can say no to things that no longer serve me, and I'm okay with it. Except for I do catch myself sometimes, I say no, and then I say why. I feel like I still have to explain myself. So I'm still working on that.
That's okay.
But I would love to before we kind of wrap up, tell our audience a little bit more. I want to know more about your group coaching program you have coming up. And you mentioned a book earlier before we started recording. So give our listeners a little bit of that before we wrap up the show.
Absolutely. So I have a few big things that are coming in the pipeline. So where do I start? I think I'll start with the group coaching program. So starting October 12th, 6-week program. It's going to be from 6 to 7:30. And I have, I think, 3 slots still available in there. And it's a breakthrough your BS. And I'm gonna walk people through their journey of breaking through, again, these things that they've been telling themselves that they cannot do, right? So example, like we just talked about, selfishness is one of the pieces. We're going to talk about why do we believe that being selfish is a bad thing? Who told you that? And let's get to the root of that and actually have a conversation. So we'll actually have conversations with people, even if the people are not in the room, but it's one of the exercises that I lead, is actually talking to those people that told you that selfishness was bad.
Wow.
Right? That's just one example. And getting and being okay with it. So when you're talking about, you say no, and you say that you feel guilty, or you ask yourself why, that's great. Yeah. Have that introspection. Still stand firm in your decision that no is actually a good thing. How do we listen to our intuition? Because that's what you're doing. You're learning to trust yourself. But we have been told that we aren't supposed to trust ourselves. That's the best thing we can do. So it's clearing that path. And we're going to talk about diet and how diet affects that too. Not high end, because that's not my area, but how that supports the whole overall process. So I have that 6-week program starting October 12th, Breakthrough Your BS. Starting also on the 12th at noon, I'm leading a 4-part panel series called Break Up to Wake Up. And the first panel on the 12th, we're going to talk about creating boundaries to raise your own personal standards so that you live in alignment. I'll be joined with 3 other panelists, expert panelists who talk all about this. And not necessarily about a relationship breakup, but it's like when you get to the place where you finally had that breakdown, which is actually a breakthrough.
Yeah.
You start there. And then we're going to have, and then that's the first of 4-part panel series, again, in November, December, and January. So October through December, it will be all women-led series about alignment, and then we move into finding yourself. The third piece will be around igniting your fire. So now that you find yourself, like, what is it that we love to do?
Yeah.
Go do it.
I love
And then
that.
the fourth panel in January, we invite the men to the equation. And how do we mix our energy and co-creating that space. So that's the 4-part series. And then the book will hit the shelves in late November in time for the holidays, called Break Up to Wake Up, Journey Beyond the Now. And I have 16 authors from 5 continents contributing their own personal journeys of self-discovery.
Wow.
We're going to be talking about alcohol addiction, drug addiction, leaving a cult, a woman who left a marriage in India, which is unheard of because they're seen as objects and not people. I'll be sharing my own journey through my own divorce, relationship with parent, relationship with toxic jobs that we create for ourselves, breaking up with your ego. And so we're going to be talking about these subjects at a very deep level, and everyone sharing their personal journey through that breakup to discovering themselves. And the goal of that is that we've all had these occur in our lives. And if we haven't, we have multiple, right? But that someone else sees themselves in this and knows that there is light at the end of that tunnel. When I began this journey, I didn't do this alone. I didn't. I had someone in front of me reaching out her hand, and she picked me up off my you-know-what. And now I do the same. So it's a link. You have one hand behind you lifting someone else up, because one hand's in front of you, someone else is lifting you up, and we're doing this together.
I love that so much, and everything that we talked about today resonated not only with me, but this is the whole reason I started this podcast, was to bring real life stories and experience to a platform where not only women can share that, but ordinary women who are trying to be brave or being brave for themselves can listen and then have the encouragement and the motivation to go do that thing. So,
and we all, by the way, we're all ordinary women doing extraordinary things.
I love that.
We're jumping into, my podcast is called Leap, so I'm all about action. We're leaping into the unknown. I don't know what this is going to lead.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I started this book idea 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
3 weeks ago, and I have 16 authors in 5 continents.
That's amazing.
I don't know where it's going to go. I just know that someone else will heal as a result of this. And that's what I have to do.
I love that. Okay, so if people want to get in touch with you, if they want to learn more about everything that you just talked about, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Best way, everything I do, I siphon everything through my Facebook. So facebook.com, Jocelyn.Bellows24. There'll also be links there for my podcast. My podcast is called Leap. You can find it wherever you find podcasts under the What's Your Leap is the tag. I'm also on Instagram under What's Your Leap. But best way is on Facebook. That's where all the links to the classes, to the panels, those live discussions, and the information about the book forthcoming.
Awesome. And just so you guys know, everybody listening, all of those links the link that she just mentioned, her Facebook link, is going to be in the description for this podcast. So it's going to be super easy for you guys to go connect with her. It sounds like that your group coaching program is going to be amazing, and I can't wait to see how it goes for you. Jocelyn, thank you so much for being on the show today. I think that we had such a powerful conversation, and I see you being a return visitor because I feel like we could talk forever.
I'd love to. I can't even I'm like, it's already up. It happened so fast. I feel that with my own show too. I'm like, how did we just burn through?
I know, half an hour. I know.
Krista, Thank you so much. I so enjoyed this.
Absolutely. And for everybody listening out there, I hope that wherever you are, in whatever situation or experience that you're in, I encourage you to go big. And whatever that looks like for you, if it's making a decision, if it's practicing what you've decided to do, be brave today. be courageous today and just do it. Just make the decision. I got goosebumps. I'm like encouraging myself today. So thank you all for your support. Thank you for listening and tuning in today. And I can't wait to talk to you guys again. So until next time, this is Krista, your host, and I'm signing us off. Bye, guys.